Hey everybody. Woohoo! We got a bunch of people on there already. That was fast. You guys are super fast. Okay. So, welcome. And my question for you guys today is, how are things in your neck of the woods? And who all is out there joining in? That sunshine just gets the best of us. Maybe I can turn a little. There we go. Okay. Oh, such a crazy ride we got going on here. But life is good. And you just keep moving forward, right? So, I am curious how you guys are doing in your neck of the woods. Good morning, Miss Shelley. I am going to share this on our Facebook page real quick. And get everybody else joining in. Good morning, Miss Tammy. Good morning, Miss Kelly. I had a brain fart for a second. And good morning, Christina. Okay, I am so glad to have you guys all joining in, and you guys were fast. You guys dove in when I went live. That makes me happy. I am anxious to share some things with you guys today, and I'm almost done here, but I really want to know how you guys are doing. That is my concern this morning. How is everybody? Are you affected by things in your surroundings? Are you too busy to care? That's what I want to know. You still need to pay attention, though. Okay, whoop. All right, here we go. Sorry for the lull. There we go. All right. Boom, that's done. Okay. I forgot to do that last week. And then once I'm done live, the video disappears for like 24 hours till it goes back up onto YouTube for some reason. I think that's a result of our internet connection. I'm not sure. Now I'm going to take a deep breath. Things have been wild and crazy here, just insanely wild and crazy. We are at such a crazy pace. It is unbelievable. Okay, let's see here. Oh, good morning, Deb, as well. Okay, so it's been raining since last night. Perfect weather to clean house. Exactly, Tammy. And Deb says, good morning, sunshine and ladies, from Deb in Omak, Washington. I was actually up in Omak not too awful long ago, couple years actually, but it was a really nice area. Deb, were you hit by those fires a couple years back? That's what we were up there doing, is actually assessing a friend's property. Shelley says, it's beautiful, sunshiny day. I have been too busy trying to get things done. I hear that. Trying to close the mortgage so we can get out of PDX. Super stressful, I imagine, and you will love it here in Idaho. Miss Kelly says, yes, raining. Sadly, our hay is getting washed like the previous 20 plus years. For first cuttings, busy and waiting for Mike's surgery on the 2nd, the last stint. Praise God, his blood work is doing so well. Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. So glad to hear that. We've been praying steadfast for that. Deb says, this week with my bonus daughter going good, but prayers are welcome for ongoing issues with her well-being. 3rd week with daughter here. Awesome. Sending prayers for sure. Kelly says, baking zucchini and banana bread today for the freezer. Yum. I can smell it. Good morning, Miss Courtney. Okay, I am so glad to hear that you guys are busy and that you are not focusing and harboring on all the negativity. As I said last week, we go through different emotions as we experience these things, and we don't want to also totally avoid things that are happening. We want to pay attention to them, but at the same time, life is short and we've all got a lot to do, and focusing on the positive things in our life is going to keep us faithfully moving forward. So I'm glad to hear you guys are doing the same. So are we. Miss Shelley says baking chocolate zucchini cake for snacks for the week. Oh, that sounds really good. I am actually gonna make a sourdough chocolate cake as well that has zucchini in it. So I'm excited about that. I'm also still doing potatoes. We've been being pulled in so many different directions right now. It's just insane. We've had rain, rain, rain. It stopped raining. The sun would come out. It's gotten to the point where you can actually hear the grass growing. It's really scary and really scary to look out. It's just taken off. It's so hard to keep up with everything going on right now, but we are trying our darndest. Deb says, yes, 2014 and 15, drove school bus 14 days straight with Montana fire crew in 2014 and within a quarter of a mile of my property in 2015. That was some scary stuff. That burned a lot. And it was very crazy when we were assessing the property because the trees, the roots, where the fire was the hottest, the roots burned all the way through, but you were walking on it. The best way to describe it is what it would feel like in my mind walking on the moon. You were walking through ash, and then all of a sudden you would just sink past your knees. I mean, it was crazy how it burned up there. So I'm glad that it did not affect you, and awesome that you were helping out. Ms. Kelly says, I was so overwhelmed with everything. That is why I left Facebook, and it was an answer to prayer for peace. I hear that. You guys might see me post a little something here and there on Facebook, but that's like I'm on and I am off, and I have no desire to go back. People are like, really miss you on Facebook, wish you were there. I don't miss it, and it's not even drawing it. There's nothing like pulling me back there. Kelly says Mike was fighting on the weekends then. With the fires as well. Kelly, was he there? Is that what you're referring to? Or are you talking about something else? Deb says, have company for lunch today with my total home garden, fresh salad, and homegrown chicken from Friend's Homestead. Awesome. That sounds very yummy, and you're making my tummy growl because I haven't eaten anything yet. I'm not typically a breakfast person. I usually do my bone broth, but this morning was kind of a weird, all over the place morning. We actually have the new homeowner arriving today here, so that's kind of exciting for him to come and see the progress that we've been making. So excited about that. And just, I'll share more with you. Okay, awesome, Kelly. So he was actually up there fighting with those crews. Wow. Yeah, there were people in from everywhere. That year, and I think the year following, we had a lot, and as well as Montana in 2016. I think that was the year when all the fires were on the pass and here, but 14 and 15 was up in Omak. Such crazy stuff. And I pray that this year will be a good year because we have the moisture now, but we haven't, the snow cover was gone very early this year because of lack of snow and warm temperatures early. This weather has just been so bizarre. We are actually forecasted to have sun all the rest of this week. I think a 30% chance of rain on Sunday, and then all next week, sun. So we might actually get our stone in. I'm putting money down on containers. I'm so excited because I finally got connected with containers. What a go around that was. But I'm excited. Things are progressing, and it's awesome. But I hear you with being overwhelmed, Kelly. It's one of those deals where there's so much going on and you've got to keep the pace. And I tell you, I sleep well and I hit the hay and I am out. Let me see here. Deb says, it burned a lot of friends' places and moved friends away because of losing everything, but God spared many in fire's path. Yeah, our friend that had his property burned, thankfully, we had been up there initially and scouted out where we were going to build a cabin for him. And then our next scouting was seeing what was left. So thankfully, he didn't have his cabin built up there, or it would have been toast. So God is good. It is a shame that so many lost things and had to move away. Mother Nature is harsh. Um, Deb says, also sharing our banana roasted walnut bread made with duck eggs, kefir, applesauce, and spelt flour, etc. So yummy. That sounds amazing. And duck eggs are awesome. We had a duck that thought it was a chicken, and her eggs were just amazing. That's funny. Okay. DNRC has all fire departments on call until September. So dry here, and rain just makes the grasses grow. Yeah, I know. Wow, that's just crazy. I know you guys are dry. You've been dry. We will hit a point of extreme dryness, and it just amazes me. You know, we are surrounded by a lot of state and national forest out here, and you know, people just don't think. They drive through the tall, dry grass with their four-wheelers, and then they stop. So there's their hot exhaust igniting that tall, dry grass, and I mean, it just takes off like wildfire. And then, you know, you've got the breezes and winds, and I know you guys have been dealing with a lot of heavy winds. Tammy, how are things there? You had fire this past weekend. How are things there? Kelly says, not sleeping well here, pain in feet and hip, and Mike's working 12-hour days for 2 weeks, so up early and to bed at 9, not much time to unwind. That is really hard. I struggle with that myself when everything is so fast paced that you go from like the dinner table to bed, and I understand. And we need to keep Mike in prayer this week because he is working those 12-hour days for these 2 weeks. He needs to stay well rested, and his health needs to stay up there. So guys, just keep them in your prayers this week, and we will keep you in prayer as we have been, Kelly and Courtney, through all of this, as well as for your sleep and removal of pain. I struggle with pain in my feet too when I'm on them too much and I have the wrong shoes. I actually have a pair of Keens. I think they're called Casey's, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not sure. But I'm on pair number 2. These shoes are awesome. And before these shoes, my feet hurt so much all the time from being on them. And I am so thankful for these shoes. I'm also working on moccasins because I want to see if grounding and earthing is going to help get the energy into my feet that I need as well. I am like so excited to start working on moccasins. That is going to be my new thing up at our new home, is sitting in front of my big window and looking at the view and working on moccasins and leather goods. So that is one thing I'm looking forward to. All right, Miss Shelley says, I have also stepped away from Facebook somewhat. I still go on, but have been limiting time. And Tammy says, I believe it isn't contained yet, but the rain we are getting helps. Wow. And that was so close to your place. That's just crazy, crazy. How much has burned so far? I'm sure a lot of acres since the weekend. Deb says, praying for all needing comfort, for peace and rest in him. Thank you very much, Deb. That's awesome. Because, you know, we all need prayer. We all have different circumstances going on. And, you know, this community is just so awesome. You know, you made my day this morning when I hit live and there were already 3 people on and 1 thumbs up. I didn't even start saying anything yet. That just totally made my day, because that means you guys need this as much as I do, and I am just so excited about that. We feed each other, we carry each other, we are there for each other, and it just means so much to me. And last week when I didn't go live on Wednesday, it hurt my heart because so many were really disappointed, and I realized how valuable these live videos are. Miss Kelly says he's off today, so catching up on hydraulic cylinder repair. Thank you for all the prayers. They comfort us. I'm so glad, girl, and praying heavy for you. Yes, change shoes and things are better now. It's amazing. You know, I realized it when I was younger, but as we age, our feet really need that support. When I was pregnant with, I think it was Austin. When I was pregnant with Austin, I had to make a trip to New York as I shudder. I hated that. I hate this big city. the trip was nice, but I had gotten a special pair of shoes because I knew we'd be doing a lot of walking. I was pregnant, and they were Danskos. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Danskos shoes, but they're awesome, and they're like $100 a pair. That's the least expensive of them, and I had those shoes for like 13 years, and were another incredible investment. But this last pair of Keens I had for a year, and I wore them every day. And I now have those as my working shoes for building the house, and have a new pair for stomping around the house and keeping nice. So it's really important that we support our bodies with good shoes. And that's one thing that I am very happy to invest money in, is good shoes. Deb says, where is the fire burning now? I missed hearing where and who. Tammy has a fire. Oh, she just posted, or Kelly did, in Montana. Helena, Missoula, and another place I can't recall right now, she says. But yes, in Montana, Montana has been so dry, and it's just crazy once they start. And the sad and the crime of it is, in 2016, that fire was started as a result. That was intentional. It just blows my mind. Oftentimes, this is a sad way to put it, but I don't know how to put it any differently. You've got people in offices that don't ever get out into the wilderness making judgment calls on when to do things. And that was the case in 2016, and they actually started those fires and then lost control of them, and then they left them burn instead of trying to control them. And that's how that got out of hand in 2016, which just makes me furious. I'm reading here. Tammy said she didn't know about the one in Missoula, and Kelly said that she thinks it's contained. Sent lots of resources. It's really crazy. But this is for the Pacific Northwest. It's a common thing for wildfires. So, I did a post on it. I'll have to share that link later in the comments below. But being prepared in these situations is important, because where we are located, there's basically one way out. And if our way is blocked, we need to hit the river and cover our heads with wool blankets. So staying on top of things, there's an app. I'm going to try to remember I'm going to put it in the links later in the comments below, because I have a short link for it that you can go right to it. But having that set up so that it alerts you of fires, you can set it in a so many mile radius. So I think mine is set to 10. But staying on top of that and knowing when there's wildfire threats so that you can prepare to get out if you need to. And also knowing what you're going to take in those situations. If we were forced out of here really fast, we have a list of certain things that we will take on a spur. And then if we need to get out of here because there's a fire coming and it's likely going to take everything out, we have the trailer loaded, in the event that we can still have time to get out, and load up with everything that it would take to rebuild, and our most valuables, and, our wall tent, and head out. So being prepared in these situations, if you live in the Pacific Northwest, it's wise to have those lists, to be prepared and to know what's going on around you. If you haven't heard that comment enough in the last how many weeks, and I will say it always, is that we need to know what is going on in our surroundings and be aware. And I can't express that enough, because even if we're off of Facebook, because Facebook does tend to be a really good resource, it's also a really good negative place, but have our resources that we check to be aware of what's going on in our surroundings so that we can be prepared. And that's every day, every season, all the time, because you never know. With all the chaos that's going on right now in our country, it's really important that we are aware and that we are prepared and that we are thinking out of the box. And that reminds me, I want to share two things with you guys. Deb says, wow, I have so many friends and acquaintances in those areas, haven't kept up on the outside news much. And Shelly says, my feet were sore also, but with COVID and all the stores closed, I could not get new shoes. We both got new shoes the first weekend we could go to the store, and that was not Walmart. Good. Yeah, Walmart shoes aren't always the best. And Christina says she loves Keens. Yes, I have my Keen boots, and then I have my Keen sandals that are good for hiking and water. I love them. Oh my goodness. They are like my most favorite shoes. That's why I'm really excited to start working on the moccasins too, because that's something I grew up wearing for years and years, everywhere I went, inside, outside. And I'm working on some test runs on soling some of my moccasins as well. So I'm very excited about that, because happy feet means happy body. I want to share two things with you guys. I want to read that one comment because it spurred a thought for me. And now I can't remember what it was. Well, the one thing I wanted to share is this. Austin and I had a run out the other day. I mentioned that Austin got his new car. Man, are the doors opening for this kid. It is just insane. We cannot wait to share the whole gamut with you. He and I are going to do a podcast and a video and share what's been happening and what's going on for him. He's got like 31 days, and then he is leaving the homestead and heading on this new venture. It's really awesome. Mind-blowing, really, how everything is happening. His truck was for sale for 3 years, and all of a sudden it's sold. And he got for his truck the exact amount that he paid for his car. And I think I shared with you about his car last week. He got himself a new Subaru, not new, but new to him, Subaru Outback. It's an 04. These are great cars, amazing on fuel, and the one he got is in really awesome shape. So I'm like so excited for him, and we are actually looking for something very similar. Our truck has given us fits. Our truck is, God bless our truck. It has done a lot for us. It's having some issues with the turbo, and we do need a new truck, but at this point with the Mountain Boy leaving, we don't have a backup vehicle. So the Mountain Boy and I went out and we went to look at a vehicle. It ended up not being for us. But while we were out there, we went to a local Winco, and I pulled a blonde one. We were looking for a line. All the lines were long, and there's this one that's open, and there was a black man in one of the motorized carts, but he was like, the line's this way, and he was parked way back here against the last aisle, so he was way more than 6 feet. He was like 12 feet away from the checkout. So I didn't realize that he was in line. So we got in line, and I looked back, and I looked at him and said, you weren't in line here, were you? And he's like, yeah, I was, but you go ahead, because we only had a few little items. And I felt really bad, because I certainly didn't do that on purpose. So, and he was on the phone, so it was probably because he was on the phone, he hadn't moved up. But anyway, I felt very poorly about it. But it gave us a really awesome opportunity, and it was really cool. And it just was an awesome experience. And just with everything that's going on, I just will never understand all that is going on right now. My mind will never understand it, wrap around it. But anyway, we moved up, we put our stuff on the belt, and I said to Austin, when he moves up, we're going to empty his buggy on the motorized cart onto the conveyor for him. And when we started doing it, he's like, you don't need to do that. I said, I absolutely know I don't need to do that, but it's the least I can do since I butted in line in front of you. And it was really funny, because Austin got really embarrassed at this point. I didn't hear him say this, but he must have been talking to his wife on the phone, and he's like, yeah, this nice couple, this husband and wife are putting my stuff on the counter for me. And Austin got all embarrassed. He's like, in the car, he's like, he thought I was your husband. He goes, must have been the beard. It was very funny. But anyway, I like when life gives us and presents to us opportunities to be good to people. And, I think more than ever right now, we need to just take efforts and opportunities to be good to those around us, because when you look at the news and you see the chaos that's going on, I mean, I have to say, we've been doing a lot of YouTubing lately, watching, and I like to watch Phil Robertson and different things there that really feed my soul. And we've been watching some of the people that have been sharing what's happening in Seattle and different places. The Dakotas have been having some struggles too. And it's just been really awesome to see. There's a couple Black people that we follow that have been sharing on things and their disgust of the things that are happening in our country. You know, it's no longer, you know, a racial thing at all. It's just chaotic, and it's people just looking for opportunities to do ignorant things. So that's all the more reason I want to encourage you guys to look for opportunities to do awesome things. Because even coming out of that store, there was, or going into it actually, there was a Black woman coming out, and I just smiled at her and I said hi, and you know, her expression totally changed. And it's just nice to reiterate and confirm that there is a lot of love in our country, regardless of what the knuckleheads are doing at this time. In Seattle, I'm not even going to go there other than to say, who's running the state? It's pretty sad. Pretty sad. I saw you guys posting something, so I'm going to jump back here. I handmade a pair of moccasins when I was a teenager. That was Deb. I wore moccasins my whole middle school and high school days. I absolutely loved them. Both high top ones and the low ones. I absolutely love moccasins. Deb says, so excited for Austin and how God is working in his life. Oh gosh, when you hear, I'm going to have him join me on here too. We just wanted to make sure things are a little more lined up and that he's exited Job Corps as well. And Shelley says, I try to walk around my yard with bare feet as much as I can, even with snow on the ground. Not the spot I'm walking on, but there is snow on the ground. Oh, I got you. I would walk in the snow too. I can't think of his name. Cody Lundeen, I think it was. He did one of the survival things with Dave Canterbury, and he was the one that did the whole hike in bare feet, and he was doing the snow. There's a lot of amazingness to training the brain to handle the cold. For one, it keeps us from hitting hyperthermia. I do a lot of cold showers and I love walking barefoot. We have so many thistles. I cannot wait to be able to get just a small area up at our new house where we can walk around in the grass. There's thistles and all kinds of things out here that are not good on the feet, and I love doing that. I do walk on the lane up there. It's clay, so in the summer it's very powdery, and I do that a lot. I do, like when the mountain boy and I walk in the summer, I do a lot of barefoot walking because I'm walking on a lane and am able to ground that way. But yes, I love it. Tammy said too funny. I imagine that was with Austin being my husband. That's pretty funny. I was kind of like, wow. He must think I'm really young. Anyway, so I'm glad to see you guys staying busy. I'm glad to see you guys having lots to say today and to being able to communicate with you guys. This is a powerful platform, and I'm thankful that we can communicate because it does feed my soul too. I think we're all in the same boat. You know, we're all kind of focusing on our homesteads and staying busy, loving on our families, providing good food for our families. But at the same time, we all need nourishment. And that is something I've been really excited about too. One of the things that we've invested in lately that have not arrived, and I cannot wait, is chain reference study Bibles. I want to know my Bible inside and out. I am like so enthralled and just awed at people that know where everything is in the Bible. And the cross-referencing in a chain reference and a study Bible is amazing. That, you know, you can search through the Bible so easily, looking for, say, things on love or things on um, faithfulness or sadness even. It's really awesome the way they are set up. So that is something that we are investing in for ourselves, to nurture our souls and finding good things to be able to nourish us is really important. There's a lot of podcasts I listen to. There are a lot of videos I like to watch. There's a lot of movies I like to rewatch and watch and listen to even, because I've watched them so many times. It's just nice to listen to them when I'm doing dishes or canning potatoes. And it's important that we do that. It's also important, and I'm so grateful that this is a spot of nourishment for you guys and that you crave it as much as I do. I want to remind you guys, I want to ask you guys, how many of you are feeling less tired now that you've stepped away from the negative things and that you're nourishing yourself a little bit more and finding other outlets for yourself? I'm curious about that because I think some of that was our struggle. Was that, we were cooped up, we were seeing so much negativity in our surroundings. And I really think that played a role in how we were feeling. But I also believe too that it is important for us to pay attention to how this virus may have affected us. Deb says, we are a part of a homeschooling Bible study community with family and friends, and we had 57 folks, adults down to newborns, all packed into a living room. An awesome fellowship in this time. That is fabulous. That is so fabulous. I know Diana, she's not with us this morning. Diana does a group study too and has mentioned how nourishing that has been for her. Oh, that's awesome. That is so awesome. And that is really something very valuable when you can gather and fellowship with people, even with your family. That is what we are focusing to do. And I really can't wait to share what Austin is doing because he is stepping into something so incredibly wholesome. It's going to change this kid's life in such a positive way. And he has so many opportunities in outreaches, local outreaches. And then this will go from local outreaches to across the world and abound. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be so awesome. I'm so excited. But that's awesome, Deb. That's awesome. And, being able to do Bible studies as families, and there's many times, Glenn and I do morning devotions, and we do them independently. And then we do a lot of prayer together, whether during the day or one mandatory one for us is at night before we go to bed. We both pray. And that's an awesome thing. If you guys have never done that with your spouse, even with your children, it's really incredibly powerful because, guys aren't as open as us women. And so you don't always necessarily hear heartfelt, deep soul stuff from a guy. But when they pray, powerful, powerful, powerful. So maybe what they may not say to you face to face, they will say in prayer. And that is just such awesome stuff. So I encourage you to pray with your family, with your children, and with your spouse, because it is really powerful. I know Miss Kelly does that daily as well, and I know that she gets the nourishment from that as well. Deb says, and who are on the same page about God and all that is going on instead of freaking out over things that are not true. That is very true. That is very, very true. When you are surrounded by like-minded people that are totally on the same page, what a reinforcement, not only to prayer and to just daily living, but that's a real powerful building block for foundation in a community. And I think it's very important. And I know that there's a lot of situations where that is not the case. And that is where the division comes. I'm doing something right now, and I will share this more maybe next week or the following week, on self-growth, personal growth, and learning my personality as well. And I'm very intuitive, I'm very creative, but I also hold very true to my feelings, and also what I stand for and what I believe in. And you guys see that every week with what I share on how I feel about the things that are going on, but also my faith and what I stand strong in with my faith. And I think it's an important aspect of who we are, and that we need to be comfortable in our own skin. And it takes a long time for us to do that, unfortunately. I mean, there are some people that are very strong and sound in that aspect of things, but it took me a long time to really find that in myself. It took, I think, 40 years for me to hit that place of really feeling comfortable with who I am and not worrying about what other people think. And I think that's because of what happened in my upbringing. But I want to encourage that in you guys that are younger. And I know many of us are at the same age right now, but it's a powerful place to be when you are really true to yourself, really comfortable with who you are, and not worrying about what other people think, and standing strong in our beliefs, not being afraid to talk about God. I can't share it, or can I? I might share something extra today if we have time here. Let me see what Miss Shelley said. I definitely have been feeling much better since I have stopped listening to the news. Not that I watched it much before. I do not listen to the numbers either. Yeah, and it's funny because we don't listen to it. I think that we are more affected by it when we do. I think there's so many, I don't know. The news outlet and the negative media play such a role in our dispositions day to day. So yes, and I'm sure you are feeling better. It's crazy the emotions that spur up in us when things go on. Like I mentioned last week, hearing the things that were going on, at first I was saddened, then I was depressed by it, and then I was just angry. And we go through those emotions, we have those emotions. Those emotions can be really good, they can also be really bad, in the regard that we allow ourselves to stay in those places too long. So this is good. We are learning what we want in life. And something that's really awesome about being intuitive is that we have the ability to create spaces and places and take ourselves to places that are happy and joyful, rather than being in these negative places. And what I'm finding is, as I'm packing up, there's certain things I'm leaving out. And when I was thinking about this week, I had a chuckle, because behind me is a Himalayan salt lamp on this side, and on that side is, actually there's two of them there, diffusers for essential oils. My chiminea is directly across from me in my office, and I burn candles in it. So in my space, everything is packed up, but my essentials, my Bible is right there. It's just funny. I've kept things out that give me peace and joy and comfort, despite the fact that they should be getting packed up. They can get packed up later. I am focusing on keeping my health and my happiness through all of this chaos. So, it's funny, we do things like this just out of natural instinct, but it's an intuitiveness in us that helps us determine what we need most. And I'm saying all that on a bunny trail to go back to remind us that that's why we're stepping away from Facebook, and that's why we're stepping away from the news, because we intuitively know best what we need for ourselves. And when we are in that place that we are willing to seek what we need, we are creating really good places in our lives, and space to be creative, and space to be productive, and space to be healthy. So I know Miss Shelley is off on a creative tangent doing renovations to her place, and she's doing amazing things. We are being creative here, even in the midst of all this construction and packing and things we got going. I am making moccasins. The Mountain Boy got an order for moccasins, and I had to purchase leather. So in doing that, it just spurred a whole buddy trail for me of total creativity. But that's where, when I do have a few minutes to myself to unwind and to do something, that's what I'm doing. I'm stitching moccasins, and I'm being creative and doing some test runs, like I said, on the soles and different things. And I keep saying I want to wear a pair of moccasins to be building the house, but the mountain man keeps saying that's not wise. And he's probably right. But I don't have steel toes in my Keens either, so I don't know. But he's probably right. But the Indians did it and the settlers did it. I keep teetering back and forth. Can you see the fight I'm in? Anyway. Let me see. Shelley says, we are getting together with the family this weekend for Father's Day. It will be a wonderful time seeing the family again. My son came last weekend and did some electrical for us. It's always nice being with family. And I love that my son and I are so in tune. It's so funny because he keeps walking up to me and saying, you know, Mom, I'm really going to miss you. It's going to be about, well, this is really funny. This is how we go back and forth. I'm like, you're 2 hours away. He's like, no, I'm an hour and 57 minutes away. Those 3 minutes matter. It's just really funny. But he will be about 2 hours away, which is much greater and nicer than the 5 hours away that he was before. And that 5-hour drive, I love road trips and I love driving, but that was awful. I've never experienced a ride that was awful like that. That ride was awful. There was one part of it that was nice, but the rest of it was just a drag, and our truck even rebelled every time we went up there. So I'm excited about his new venture, and I will share more. I know I'm like keeping you in suspense. Tammy says, today we finished school for this year, now to plan for fall and a new school season. Right, so you finished, but you still have all that planning to do. I remember well, but nice. So you'll get a break and you can focus on other things, and you can probably gain part of your house back while you're not schooling. We schooled all year round. Austin just did better keeping fresh and keeping in it. It wasn't as heavy during the summer months, but we continued to school. But that's nice. So I'm sure you're celebrating that. So there's lots of links below. They've been links that I've been sharing over these last couple weeks. So if you're looking for movies, possibly some books to read, check the description below. There's also links on fermenting and canning and using a sun oven. So those links are all below. And as I mentioned last week, if you are dealing with health issues and you are just so terribly exhausted and you're dealing with a lot of chronic pain, chronic illness, autoimmune diseases, PTSD, chronic fatigue syndrome, check out trayerwilderness.com/retraining the brain. And also, if you want to get control of your health, removing yourself from the modern medicine side of things, you can also go to creatingbalancedhealth.com and be sure to use coupon code TRAYERWILDERNESS. We use that as a family. A lot of you have been diving into that, and I'm so excited to see that because you will see great benefits from it. The Mountain Boy was really struggling. And we did that and got a lot of answers. So, and now he's on some supplements that are really helping him as well. So definitely check that out. And also, 2 things that are down below is the melt method, which I mentioned, which is another great thing to have on hand. Because it enables us to also take control of our own health and be able to get the benefits of a deep muscle massage from the comforts of your home real easily. So that is what's been helping me greatly. As a matter of fact, we painted 3 days ago. The Mountain Boy and I painted after our last live last Thursday. and we were fine. I was fine. Heavy odors and chemical smells really set me off. And, but I wanted to help the mountain man. So I dove in and I painted. And last week I was fine. I didn't have any problems. We switched paints because we ran out of Sherwin-Williams, which I am really thankful to know that Sherwin-Williams is not as toxic. But we switched paints to I don't know how to say it, Valspass or something like that. Anyway, my face swelled up. I have no skin under the bottom of my lip, under my top lip. There's no skin underneath it. The roof of my mouth is raw, and my eyes swelled up. So I have been doing a lot of therapy of my own, trying to get the fluid out of my face again. Man, that's rough. So our bedroom that we're in right now, that used to be Austin's, needs painted, and I said that's getting painted when we're moving out, because I am not doing that again, because that is just awful. So having those things on hand, I say that because the melt method is what I'm using to help get the fluids out, as well as something else, which I will share with you next week. Let me see here. I saw a bunch of things coming through. Shelly says, that's so awesome, Tammy. It is nice to be done, but also the planning for the next year is exciting. And Deb says, had a quick phone call for directions for lunch guests. Back again. Welcome back. Christina says, I'm reading through the book of Revelation for the first time. Very timely. Yeah, that's a really powerful chapter. Very eye-opening, and also a lot of relevance. Kelly says, being creative in the garden and yard right now, creating peaceful places to sit and relax and pray. Isn't that awesome? We have a small section, a cluster of trees up at our new property, and in the center is just a grassy area, and we are going to do decorative stone in that center area and create a fire pit and just make it a nice tranquil space to spend time, and I'm real excited about that. It's important that we have those places, not only in our homes but outside. I mean, being outside, there is such power in being outside. So many ways: aromatherapy, grounding, just God's presence. I love being outside, and we've been kind of trapped inside for quite some time, and with all this rain. So I'm excited to get out again. I will be so excited, and I know the mountain man will be. We love doing the work here, but our hearts are up there, and it'll just be nice to start creating our new space. And I'm hoping and praying that in the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks tops, that we are able to do that, and that the rains stop. And that's awesome, Kelly, because you need that right now. Deb says, chemicals, exhaust fumes, etc. are deadly on me also. Yeah, you know, when the mountain boy and I traveled the other day, his car is an '04, and it has that recycling of the air so that you can eliminate the fumes coming in from the outside, but you can't do that when the defroster's running, and it was raining. So we were, taking in all the fumes, and my face was fire engine red, and I was flared up. So in addition to painting, then I had that going on. So so much better when I'm just at my home and in my own smells. I mean, that's another thing. You know how I mentioned to you guys about purchasing that chair and it had so many smells to it? I ended up having to sell it because even sitting 2 chairs away from it, I could still smell it, and it would make I'd lose skin in the inside of my mouth. I don't know what that is. That is so weird. Still researching that, but that's that, and my face getting red and starting to get really hot and splotchy is a good indication that I'm around chemicals that I shouldn't be. So imagine having to, be careful purchasing a car. That's just so hard. I mean, I have to ask if they're smokers. I have to ask if it has smells. I have to ask if they have air fresheners, because if they've used air fresheners, forget it, because you can't get that smell out. So it's very difficult trying to find a vehicle. And I forgot, you forget how all that stuff affects you when you're just living in your home and not buying things. We don't buy stuff ever. So, and that was the other thing. I tried purchasing a used Bible because I wanted the Thompson Chain Reference Bible, because that's what my pap had, but my pap is a King James version, and it really just twists my head with all the these and the thous. I want to be able to understand what I'm reading. And I've prayed for that, and it just hasn't happened yet. But I bought a used Bible, and it was either in a musty old house or from a thrift store or something. because you can't find them new. And I have to sell it because it's just, I can't use it. It's so crazy, but that's just nature of the beast. So, Shelley says that horrible drive was an indicator to you to find a better place for Austin. Amen. I know. Well, we had to experience. God had opened those doors wide open for him. So I really feel that what he experienced, even though it wasn't good for him, was necessary to prepare him for what is ahead, both with the academic side of things and also just knowing what is out there in this world. He has been cultured, but he also lived in the wilderness, and I think it was really important. I think that God opened those doors, but God also closed those doors, and I do believe that he does that to teach us things. And it was a really good controlled setting for him to experience those things, rather than just throwing him into the city environment and him experiencing those things himself in a really harsh way. So it was good and it was bad. I would not, honestly, if you have I wouldn't recommend Job Corps for our kids. It is a hardcore environment. And I know that Austin touched some lives while he was there, and that's awesome. And like I said, there was good in it, but it was not a place for him to stay. And I wouldn't recommend it. If you have a sensitive kid, if you have kids that are very easily persuaded by their environment, I wouldn't encourage it either. And I wasn't impressed. I will be very honest with you. In the 6 months he was there, or 5 months he was there, he did not learn what he was there for. He learned a lot of colorful things, but he did not learn what he was there for. So I would recommend looking for other opportunities. But like I said, God did open those doors. So Shelley says, was looking for a sun oven, but there is not one to be found with the COVID-19. I am thinking the manufacturer is closed. Did you check into the sun oven link that I provided? Because I know they're pretty busy. I've been getting a lot of their emails and correspondence, so I'm thinking that you might have luck there. That's trierwilderness.com/sunoven. Christina says, we have the same problem with buying anything used with our sensitivity, with the mold poison. Yeah, for sure. So crazy. You don't think about all that stuff. You're so used to just doing things, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, yeah, you got to really be careful. I mean, that's why we are building our own home. There is no way. Even just for me to go to a hotel room to stay, I suffer. I suffer so bad. With Austin going in the 31 days, I will be doing that. And part of me is hoping that I can find myself a Subaru and get an air mattress for the back and just sleep in my car instead of staying in a hotel room, because it's punishing. It's punishing. I will be affected. It's just crazy. I am affected for days afterwards, sometimes weeks, and I don't have time for that. Let me see here. Christina says you can make your own sun oven. Yes, you can. We have done that as well. So there are options, and Shelley is very creative. She had made one previously, I believed. Deb says, I think we are twins from different parents, so much on the same page and feelings with you. That's funny. You know what? That's so cool. And Tammy and Kelly and Shelley are all, it's so funny. We are all on the same page. That's why God put us all together here. Tammy says, after hearing Austin's experience, Caleb was glad he didn't go. Yeah, I'm glad too he didn't go. It's not an environment for our children, really. And searching for, Christian schools that teach what our boys are into, our men are into, is hard to find. And, in the industry itself, mechanicking and welding and those types of trades, it's hard to find clean environments. I mean, so, I think part of that education that Austin got was the culturing of knowing that what he's getting into in that situation too. Deb said, and a Subaru lover too. Oh yes, They're so good on fuel. Oh my goodness. He gets 25 miles to the gallon, and I'm so excited. He would go with his truck. It had a 460 in it, so the poor kid was having to fill up every time he went anywhere, and for that reason he didn't go anywhere. So he's so excited to have his car, and he's just so proud of it. Miss Kelly says, perfumes and most chemicals make me sick to my stomach. I did have a really bad reaction with mold while helping a friend clean out a grain bin. My face peeled like a sunburn. So you're getting it topically. I get it in my mouth, and it's just so bizarre. Our bodies react to things. I'm grateful for that meter, though. That we know, like, I have to be careful in hugging certain people because their perfumes are really strong. And going to church, when I first got had my surgery and came back and we were going to church, I couldn't. It was just too much. It was too many smells, too many odors. And even though the lemongrass helped, my body would still react to it in that place until I did the brain retraining. And still, I have problems. Nearly impossible, Tammy. It is. But, and that's the thing. I liked that it was a controlled experience for Austin to experience what life is really like in certain situations. And it's not that we didn't culture him. He's seen that stuff, but it also helped him, I think, decide to head in the direction that he is. And it's really awesome stuff. So, I'm a true believer that God puts us through all circumstances so that we grow in one way or the other. Whether that means that we learn what we do like, it also may mean that we learn what we don't like. So, it's important for our kids to get that education. And also, God may be very well preparing this generation, our men, for what is ahead. And scary as that may be, they'll be strong in it. And I trust him with that, with my whole heart, that he is preparing our men for what is ahead and building them up. And I think it'll be a really, they'll be well prepared. They'll be well prepared. So I want to read some things to you guys. And these are pretty awesome. Okay, this one's called Pursue Your Dreams. This is, I think it's Colossians. No, it's not. Let me see if I can figure it out from down below. The abbreviations sometimes they use are very difficult. It is to win, you must deny yourselves. I think it's 1 Corinthians 9:25 is what I'm going to say right now. I'm sorry to be questioning that. But like I said, the abbreviations this particular app uses aren't always in line with all the other abbreviations. But to win, you must deny yourself. Responsibility requires us to make a living and support our family. But deep down, do you feel you've been called to do something different? It was when Jesus told his disciples to leave the security of the shore and launch out into the deep that they landed their greatest catch of fish. Here's a modern day story to encourage you. This is pretty awesome. Jerry Richardson faced an important decision in 1961. In those days, he played football for the Baltimore Colts, a job that was considered glamorous and secure. But when he was turned down for the raise he requested, he felt it was time to take a risk and do what he'd always wanted to do, start his own business. He and his family moved back to South Carolina, where an old college buddy invited him to buy into a hamburger stand. Richardson took the plunge and bought Hardee's first franchise. He went from catching footballs to flipping burgers 12 hours a day. He scrubbed stoves and mopped floors. His wages, only $417 a month. But tired and frustrated as he was, he refused to give up. He employed the same discipline he'd used on the football field to focus on making his restaurant more efficient. His employees the most friendly in town, and his prices affordable. Before long, his business boomed. Eventually, he went on to head up one of the largest food service companies in the United States with $3.7 billion a year in sales. Oh, And one more thing, he also became an owner in the NFL and established the Carolina Panthers franchise, which he owned for 23 years. Called to do something different is how it ends. You know, we may start out in life doing the things we think we are called to do, and maybe we were called to do them for a reason. You know, he may have been called to do football initially because he then later purchased the franchise. But God changes up what we are called to do as we go forward. And it's pretty amazing. You know, I think I've shared this before. You know, I was in high school, didn't own a computer, but was feeling very led to learn computer programming. And out of high school then, I did a lot of data entry while I was in high school and had co-op programs that I worked and went to school. And then following graduation, I started at a candy company doing data entry work there. And because of my desire for programming, their order entry kept having errors, and I kept researching it on my own and trying to figure out the problems, and ended up getting hired by the programming firm because of my desire to dig in like that and try to fix things. They saw my worth, and he apprenticed me a year, and I programmed with him for 10. And then I went on to have children and work from home and create my own web design business that, had I not had, we wouldn't have been able to take on this first decade venture of being off-grid, because as long as I have an internet connection, I can work from anywhere, right? Well, now, God instilled in me a way to help Austin pay his tuition, and it's going to require my web design business. So it's pretty awesome to see how God, back when I was 18, already started planning for these future events. And I thought that my programming was, established a decade ago, that was to allow us to live off the grid. And here, a decade later, it now has a whole other purpose to help my son boom forward. And in the meantime, I'm also educating on our lifestyle. I'm sharing my faith and inspiring others, and also feeling very led to do that as well. So it's pretty awesome what God does. And as we embrace our dreams, and we also are willing to take the nudges and push forward to do the things that we are feeling nudged to do, that's God's nudging. He's opening up other doors for new dreams. So don't ever deny those divine nudges to take on something new. Follow your dreams. There's great, great things in following our dreams. And now more than ever, we have that opportunity to do that. What do we have to lose right now? You know, many people would be afraid to embrace their dreams of a new business right now under normal circumstances if all of this wasn't going on. But being that a lot of people couldn't work, haven't been able to work, have lots of spare time, what a great opportunity to embrace something new, right? But whenever God nudges, we need to take the calling. We need to step into it. So step into it if you are feeling that nudging going on. Now, here's something else. And this is really powerful too, and it may speak to some of you that are taking on new ventures. Maybe Christina, who's taking on a new venture and rebuilding from a place of mold and the place that they're living in right now. This may resonate to all of you for different reasons. And this one I clearly know. This is Nehemiah 2:18. I love Nehemiah. I read Nehemiah a couple years back. And actually, it was really crazy because I read the book of Nehemiah, and then I had an interview with a friend. And what was crazy is he brought it up. And it was so powerful how God had me read it first, because it had just taken me to such an incredible place of power. Because Nehemiah is in a really awkward situation, having to rebuild in really terrible times. But God is nudging him to do this, and all the doors are opening otherwise, and it's pretty awesome. You need to read the book of Nehemiah. Anyway, Nehemiah 2:18, they replied, "Let us start rebuilding." So they began this good work. And I read this to you guys because we can rebuild ourselves, our lives, our families at any given time. And God gives us that power. God gives us the power in his word. And it's a powerful chapter, and it's a powerful place to be, knowing that we have, through God's word and through God's love for us, we have the power because he gives us the strength to do what we need to do when we need to do it. And this is pretty powerful. So it was nighttime when the leader set out by horseback to inspect the work that laid ahead. What laid ahead of him was grueling. It was like hard to fathom that it could even be done, let alone the time he did it in. So as he toured the destruction all around him, he saw city walls that had been destroyed and gates that had been burned. And in some areas, the vast debris made it tough for his horse to get through. Saddened, the rider turned toward home. When it came time to report the damage to the officials of the city, he began by saying, "You see, the trouble we are in." He reported that the city was in ruins and the protecting city wall had been rendered useless. But then he made a statement that energized the troubled citizens. "I also told them about the gracious hand of God on me," and immediately the people replied, "Let us start rebuilding." And they did. With faith in God and in all-out effort, despite enemy opposition and seemingly impossible tasks, the people of Jerusalem, under Nehemiah's leadership, rebuilt the wall in just 52 days. Thinking back on that time when everything was manual and they were building with massive rocks and boulders, I mean, that's just an incredible feat in 52 days. And when you read this and realize what they were under, a lot of the time they were building with one hand because in the other hand they had their weapon. It's just incredible. And I love this story. You know, reading it like the 6 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever that was, it empowered me. And, you know, I said earlier how I want to know the Bible in and out. God brings us to certain places in the Bible that resonate with us during certain times. And trust me, during those certain times, you will not forget what you're reading. You will not forget this stuff. That's why I love allowing God to lead me through the Bible, because there's so much good in that and so much power in that. But it goes on to say that as you consider your circumstances, is there something that looks difficult but that you know God wants you to do? A sin you can't seem to get rid of, a relationship rift that's not God honoring, a task for him that looks too hard. Ask God for guidance, analyze the problem, and recognize his involvement, and then start rebuilding. So awesome and so powerful. So it asks, what are a couple of destroyed wall situations that are troubling you? Ask God, sorry about that. How will prayerfully asking for God's help and guidance help you start the rebuilding process? You know, the challenges we may have in our life may be huge, overwhelming, toppling when you really look at the whole picture. But when you break it down and realize that as you walk through it and you take baby steps through it and you do that with God's grace, God's strength, God's help, it's not near as hard as it may appear. And it can be done. Remember that with God, everything is possible. Is this the one? No, right here it is. Matthew 19:26. That is going to hang in my new home. And so will that one. Those are old barn boards from the from the farmhouse that we lived in that I painted our first year here. Much truth in that. With God, all things are possible. So don't forget that. Now, I'm going to try real quick to find one more to read to you guys because it was really awesome. And I really think that you guys will, it'll resonate with you guys. I just got to figure out which one it was very quickly, if I can. Let me see. It's not in this one. Give me 1 second. So, did that resonate with you guys? I hope that you got something from those. This is it. Here we go. Okay. Dancing before the Lord. I really love this. Mark 14:4. Some of those present were saying indignantly to one another, "Why this waste of perfume?" All right. A number of years ago, my wife and I visited a small church where during the worship service, a woman began to dance in the aisle. She was soon joined by others. Carolyn and I looked at each other, and an unspoken agreement passed between us. Not me. We come from church traditions that favor a serious liturgy, and this other form of worship was well beyond our comfort zone. I want to stop there. How many of you are in the same boat? You come from a very serious church background, and raising of the hands and praising God with physical activity is not something that's comfortable to you. I grew up in the same way. However, when I was sick, before I even knew what was going on with me, I think even more, I don't know, both times, before I knew what was going on with me, I would go to church and I would be very moved by the sermons and by other people praising God, because I felt like I was dying, and I really believed, well, and I was. And because of that, you know, my relationship with God really, really grew strong. And then after my surgery, I would just break down emotionally because God saved my life. If it hadn't been for God's diagnosis, I would have died. So, you know, I was very raw and very in tune with God, and my intuitiveness just that he created in me allowed he and I to have such a tremendous relationship. So, in going to church, there was one woman specifically. There were a lot of them that would praise with their hands raised and their hands out. But this one woman just is spunky. And I instantly had a connection with her. And, you know, she would just start dancing. Well, I couldn't control myself after my surgery. And there were times that I would get like that myself. And I love it because initially it was very out of my comfort zone to even raise my hand and draw attention to myself. But when you are in a place like that, where you're really comfortable praising God, it's amazing what comes out. And it's really funny because the mountain boy and I together will do crazy stuff like that. But by ourselves, we're not as keen to do it. And the mountain man for sure is not someone to really dive into that. But the mountain boy, I didn't show you guys. I showed some of you the video that the mountain boy did the other day when he was accepted into this future event. And it's just neat to see when people start to loosen up and not worry about what you look like or what people are thinking, and just start praising God. And I want to encourage that in you guys because, gosh, it is so much fun. It's so much fun, and it brings you to such a deep level with God when you can do that. And even if you do it in the comfort of your own home, it is so awesome. It is so, so awesome to just let loose and let yourself be swept away by God and what he's doing in your life, what he's doing for you, what he's creating in you. It's just amazing stuff. So I saw a bunch of you message. I'll continue reading then. All right. Okay. I'm going to jump back to a couple of the messages in a second. Okay, so Deb says, yes, very much. Love letting my fingers do the walking, finding the scriptures that always lead to others' needs. And she says that grew up Catholic in the 60s and knew there was more than what they were teaching. I needed a personal relationship, which happened in 1995 in perfect timing. Isn't it awesome how he does what he does? Oh, and she says, I would love to see it. I imagine you're talking about the video I did of the mountain boy. You will see that, and you will see more because I'm really feeling led to do some fun stuff lately, and I'm just going to let my hair down and do it. She says, I'm going to be in CDA, Idaho for graduation on this Saturday. How far are you from Coeur d'Alene? We're about an hour and 20 minutes from Coeur d'Alene, so we'll have to talk. But I encourage you guys, I'm going to go back on some of the comments because there's a couple others in there. But I want to encourage you guys to really let your hair down. And when you feel led, whether it's at church, if you're not comfortable doing it at church, but when you're doing your devotions or you're listening to some kind of, the music I listen to, I have a very broad taste. Excuse me, but I listen to a lot of Christian worship music and that. And there are many times where songs are really resonating to me and I'll just start dancing around my house. I don't care. And they can think of me what they want. They already know me pretty well. But do it. Really learn how to let your hair down with God. It's amazing. So anyway, so they weren't willing to step out of their comfort zone to try that. So it continues on to say, but if Mark's story of Mary's waist means anything at all, it suggests that our love for Jesus may express itself in ways that others find uncomfortable. A year's wages were involved in Mary's anointing. It was an unwise act that invited the disciples' scorn. The word Mark uses to describe their reaction means to snort and suggest disdain and mockery. Mary may have cringed, fearing Jesus' response, but he commended her for her act of devotion and defended her against his own disciples. For Jesus saw the love that prompted her action, despite what some would consider the impractical nature of it. He said, "Why are you bothering her? She has done a beautiful thing to me." And that was when he forgave her of her sins, and she used her hair to wash his feet with her expensive perfume. And she did that out of love for him. And, so he views our outward acts of worship and praise to him as an act of love. And when you learn to do it, you will feel such amazing things in your heart. It's just so cool when you can just let loose and not care what other people think and just worship. There's a powerful, powerful thing in that. And it's pretty awesome. Plus, it can be contagious. As you heard, that one woman went out in the aisle and started praising, and others followed. Once you're willing to do those things, oftentimes people will follow because they're followers, they're not leaders. So sometimes it takes that leader to start the ball rolling. So anyway, different forms of worship, informal, formal, quiet, exuberant, represent a sincere outpouring of love for Jesus. He's worthy of all worship that comes from a heart of love. So why do you think we're critical of unfamiliar forms of worship? How can we change our thoughts about a form of worship that's outside of our comfort zone? For starters, we need to learn to step out of that box. We have either put ourselves in a box, or our upbringing has put us in a box that keeps us limited, that keeps us thinking that, what we know and what we are capable of is all the more we are capable of. But as you see me, I am jumping out of that box. I am destroying that box. And I want to see you guys do the same, because oftentimes it is what has been formed in our minds as walls or roadblocks that keep us from doing the really creative and awesome things that we are meant to do in our lives. So, my company arrived. See you all soon. Take care, Deb. Have a great day. Enjoy your good food and your good company. And God bless. All right, so I'm just going to jump back here to a couple of the other things that were mentioned. Shelley says that I cannot go down the candle and laundry aisle. I get an instant headache. I have the same problem and had that before I was sick with the laundry area, because it is just so powerful. And the candles too. I made candles, and I had to actually stop for a while because I couldn't handle the overwhelming smell. And now I do things so much different than I had before because of the scents. I use a lot more essential oils and focus on a lot more pure things in our home. I had already been doing that, but I've eliminated things too. So Shelley says, I found a new laundry soap from True Earth that is environmentally friendly, no plastic bottle, and you can get scent free. Nice. I've heard of their stuff, and there's quite a few on the market now that make it really, really awesome. And there's a lot out there that we can search for and find. They even make Clorox that's scent free, and it's not made of the chemicals. It's actually made of peroxide. That is what I use. So learning how to create those environments in our house that give us wholesomeness and on our properties and that give us joy, and learning what we need in our lives to eliminate our health issues, such as scented items and different things, and learning to step out of the box, embracing our dreams, rebuilding when we have to, because life is a roller coaster ride. You're going to go from good places to bad places to, from good times to hard times. You're going to run into events that stifle you. But you can't allow those things to stop you in your tracks and keep you in those places. You've got to be willing to keep climbing the mountain. And sometimes that might mean that your course that was going vertical now needs to wrap around the mountain. You need to change course all the time. We need to change directions. We need to be willing to do new things. We need to constantly be growing. And doing that is learning to grow in Christ, learning to trust Him, learning to be willing to be adventurous and take chances, learning to dance in the aisle and not care what other people think, because you are prompted by the Holy Spirit to just embrace what you are feeling. We need to learn these things, and it starts in baby steps, and that might be dancing in front of a mirror to your favorite song versus doing it in the aisle at church. But be a risk taker, be courageous. And I'm so glad to hear that so many of you, all of you really today, have found comforts in other places and have redirected yourselves and are refocusing, and that is what we need to do. Still pay attention to what's going on in your surroundings, still be prepared, but at the same time, taking care of ourselves and knowing what we need and focusing on God is really, really important. Let me see. Tammy says, I have tried to use the more natural dish soaps. I've been more allergic to those than the chemical-filled ones. Isn't that something? Well, and you know what? As we wean ourselves from the toxic things and into the healthier things, our food-wise is a perfect example. You will see your body adjusting. Now, in that case, you might just be allergic to something they're using in it and have to find another. But our bodies, like, for example, Austin had gained like 25, 30 pounds when he went to Job Corps. And that was mainly because of their food and then later because of stress. Now he's losing it all and so much healthier. But when your body's used to have something awful, it's going to react. And when you're used to the awful and go to the clean, it's going to react. You're going to have kind of like a withdrawal period where your body is cleansing and adjusting. So stay with it though, and you just have to experiment sometimes in finding the right things. There have been some of the natural products too, Tammy, that I have reacted to. So it's finding what works for our bodies and for our families. I have to watch that also, being allergic to so many things. Yeah, it's weird because when I was younger, I always had weird sensitivities. And it's funny saying that, thinking about it, some of that stuff was to cleaning products. My mom would use all these things that were really strong in odor and toxic, and I'd get burns on my skin, and just, it was weird. So I already had that sensitivity and always was using like hypoallergenic makeups and different things like that. So I already had that sensitivity. Now it's like over the top. But, when we focus on using the natural things on our body, that's what we were meant to use. If you look back in biblical times and you read through the Bible and what they used, it's pretty awesome. I mean, that's pretty much what I'm going back to, is using, frankincense and olive oil and, so using the pure things on our bodies will get really good results. So, guys, this has been an awesome topic today. We've jumped around a lot, but so much interaction and really good stuff. So I hope you guys gained from this today. I'm going to say a prayer so that you guys can get back to your days. Tammy says, I had never had allergy problems my 20s, I became allergic to pretty much every body-related product. It's crazy. Well, you know what's, I can relate to that in reverse. I had all kinds of allergies as a kid, and I was doing allergy shots and such when I gave birth to Austin. And I had his well baby checkup 3 days after he was born, and because we were there, I just figured I'd get my weekly allergy shot. Well, I reacted to it. I never reacted to any of them. My throat closed. That's a long story. I've shared that in the past, but I ended up having to have an adrenaline shot that day because my body reacted that badly to that allergy shot. And after that, I have had no allergies. Knock on wood. I don't have those allergies anymore. So I relate that to my body going through all kinds of changes as a result of giving birth to him. So our bodies do change. Our bodies do change over time. And as we age, they change. So, it's learning to roll with the changes of our bodies and addressing them as we go. But it's pretty crazy stuff. And it can be, consuming at times when you go from one to the other, especially when you didn't have any allergies and now all of a sudden you have tons. So I grew up with all kinds. So it's kind of funny thinking about that. I haven't really thought about that in a long time, but it's, I guess, prepared me for what I'm walking out now. But learning to find the different products too, and the reasons why some of the products are causing you struggles. A lot of products for women have a lot of things in them that affect our hormones. So that in and of itself can play a big role in how our bodies react to it and cause us a lot of issues. One of my girlfriends actually made products for a doctor so that his patients could utilize them and that they wouldn't alter their hormone levels because there wasn't much on the market at the time. So it's pretty awesome, when you think about those things, how our natural products really do help us. And it's just finding ones that are legitimately natural. That's the other thing, is many claim to be, but aren't always. So it's finding those good companies. And maybe that's something I'll touch on in the future, because I have found a lot of good companies as a result of trial and error. And maybe, Tammy, you have some that you can share as well. So I'm going to end this day so you guys can get on with your day. And I believe our guest is soon to arrive. So I'm just going to say a prayer here. Papa, I just thank you for your love and your mercy and your grace, your guiding hand in all situations, how you open doors and close others, and just how you are constantly present in our lives, providing for us, and your word is such a wholesome form of comfort and joy and happiness if we learn to delve into it. And I just ask that you wrap your loving arms around everybody here today and everybody that watches the replay, and just help them and guide them and teach them how to intuitively find the right things in their lives for them, the comfort spots and the right comfort words they need to read, and learning to delve into their Bibles and learning how to care better for themselves and to intuitively know what they need, and to learn to step away from things that are toxic like Facebook or the news, and just learning to find their sweet spot, if you will, and their happy place. And just give them that direction. Help them to find that right now in this chaos and in this chaotic world we live in. Even though it is chaotic, you are very present and doing a million things in the background. And we trust and thank you for all that you are doing and all that you're going to do for each of us. I ask that you be with Terry Perry as he's going through his radiation treatments. And I ask that you be with my friend Rachel and her family, and Ben, as they mourn the loss of their sister-in-law and aunt, and just be with them, and be with all those that are in need. Be with Chad and just help him, and be with Christina as she's trying to get here to Idaho. And I know there was another prayer request that was mentioned. I believe that was Deb with her daughter. So just please, their needs. Just please be with them and guide them and direct them, and just comfort everyone. Give them peace in this time of trouble, and just Thank you for your presence. May you just give glimpses to everyone of your presence so that they know you're there, and may they feel your loving and comforting arms around them. And just thank you for what you're going to do. Thank you for blessing Austin the way you have. And just continue to keep your hand on the mountain man as he progresses through all the work that we need to do. And just guide us as a family to be the extra hands he needs when he needs them, and to be a comfort to him as well. And I just thank you for these loving people that have joined, and just the community you have formed around us. We love you and we thank you for all that you're going to do. And we ask this in your holy and precious name of Jesus. Amen. Okay, guys, let me see. Love you too, sweet friend Courtney. Have a good day as well. Miss Kelly says, I only found one dish soap that I can tolerate, and it's all natural ingredients. You'll have to share that with us then next week. And Tammy says, amen. Anita, hello. I'm so glad you're joining. I didn't know you were in the background there. And she says, amen. May God bless you always. Thank you. May God bless you too. And guys, I love you all. I'm so thankful for such a wonderful community that we have, and for today's nourishing. It was just really good on both, I'm sure, your end as well as mine. So guys, I love you all. Have a great rest of your week, and I look forward to seeing you next week and sharing our good news with you. God bless.